So we very well, watch any kind of bounce in this. If it does not reclaim that 50 SMA, then at this point, Jane, would probably be a little bit of a short. You're starting to get kind of like that head and shoulders type of look. So, I'm expecting more. We probably have a few dollars of downside on this. But ideally, like if it pops, we need to start to see how it reacts around here. Does it turn into like a breakdown pullback, or does it just turn into like a shake and bake where it remounts and then it's back up? We don't necessarily know, right? So we'll have to let the price action tell us. Definitely there's some volume distribution going. If you see on the bounce days, the volume's a little bit lighter than the down days. That's never a good sign either. So we've got a couple things kind of working against it. I think that there's probably going to be a little bit more downside in it for the next few days, and then we'll see, right? This thing is, has a habit of just going bunkers for a few months and then dying down. So keep an eye on that level. We'll see exactly what goes down. On the other side of things, if you like kind of these small boys, ooh, that sounds dirty. Small guys, that sounds weird too. Smaller stocks, then this one will be fine. Like I don't like trading like low float kind of small caps, but this is like kind of like an actual, right? It's an actual company, actually had actual volume. Watch this one. If it's got a light open on this, we go red to green at that 350 spot, then we'll have ourselves really a nice kind of breakout over here. 350 is going to be the key on this one. If it can hold, we're good to go. GWRE, this had it, it didn't gap on Friday. It had its earnings come out on Friday, and it had almost no reaction. So very similar to ZM, and then it went on a monster ramp. This is a breakout to all-time highs. It's in the right sector. This sector's been just on fire pretty much all year. The earnings that have been coming out on it have been reacting well. I do like this one. You can see here you got pretty much like a triple tapper breakdown. Hussein, what's up? Don, how you doing? So keep an eye on this one. Watch this one here. If it starts to hold at this area and we start to take out Friday's highs, this one may have some secondary plays on it. W-Day. W-Day is getting still just smoked on a daily basis. All strength on this thing is getting faded off. So if you look at like kind of like a 15-minute chart here, right? Every time it pops up, it fades off. So watch like your resistance points here at the top of the range. If you're looking at it, like it's pretty much spiking up every day and then just fading off $6-7, and you're able to flip them over. So I have this on watch for potential short. I don't want to chase this one into the hole though. Let this thing kind of spike up a little bit and then watch for the rollover. It's been doing it every day. When a stock gets liquidated, off like bad news or earnings, that's kind of what happens is like, people will think it's cheap. You'll get a quick spike on it and then it'll start to re-roll. That one looks pretty good. Crowd day 2, ZM day 2. ZM, it was a shake and bake at the open, but you broke down this key trend line. A lot of these IPO stocks, when the earnings come out and people don't like them, they can fall for 5, 6, 7 days. You had that end of day real flush on this thing too, that's like $5, $6 into the close. Same thing, you're getting a strong open on this one. It's going to gap up a couple points or a point. Watch for any kind of, see into this zone over here. You start to see this thing get jammed up into 87, 88, or, even if it got up to 89, that'd be ideal. We could get a rollover in this one too. It does trade a little bit thin at the open. It had 7 million shares in volume. Still trades a little bit thin. It's got a spread on it. Oftentimes, especially at the open, the spread could be 20, 30, 40, even 50 cents. So you have to trade this one smaller. If you normally were going to trade 500 shares or something like this, if you're at the open, you may have to scale in like 200, but you got to trade it just a tad smaller due to the spread. There's nothing worse than going in full size on like a high beta or an IPO type stock, and then the spread widens and you got to get out. And all of a sudden, you got to sell it on the bid, and you lose an extra $200, $300 that way. It looks good, but scale into this one or just trade it smaller due to the liquidity portion of it. let's talk about the current. Let's talk about some of the current earnings plays. This ACAD, if you go back here, this is a breakout from 2015. You can see this 40 mark is really, really important. It's kind of popped up to this 40 spot and faded off a lot of times. So when you think about like support, resistance just areas of supply on a particular stock, right? There's a layer of selling that comes into it where traders are reacting around a certain level. Now, the more times you test a particular supply zone in trading, the more you're sucking up that supply, right? So every time you come up and say there's millions of shares available, every time you come in and test a level, you're essentially soaking some of that supply. What we need to do is see if we can kind of break and hold over this, and it looks like we just might. But this thing's already faded off like $13, $14 pre-market. If you see at the open, like this thing just kind of shreds back under 40 or so, this one even may turn into a short, depending on how it reacts around this level, okay? And the reason I say that is that we've spiked and faded at this spot forever. It's like, God sitting on a toilet just laying Blumpkins on this stock every time it comes into that 40 spot. And so if you want to heave it again today, then we may have to flip short. Otherwise, I'm thinking long if we hold it, but we just don't know if we hold. This stock is a notorious TERD. I've been caught in a dump on this thing a few times over the years. So definitely something to kind of keep mind of. Pays, this thing is a monster turd too. You're breaking down this, prior support, these prior lows. This is kind of a longer term cock and balls pattern, right? What's it called? Head and boulders, cock and balls pattern, whatever. It's all the same stuff. When you get that lower high and you start to see the rollover, it's a permanent usually wipeout, especially if it gets under the 200 SMA. I think this one will be done. Now, the issue on this one is going to be the SSR is going to be on it. It's already down 20%. When you get a stock that's down 20%, you can't just short that thing into the hole. You got to let it pop a little bit and then fizzle out. So what I mean by pop a little bit, fizzle out is that, like, see on Crowd on Friday, this will happen when you have like an SSR on a stock. You'll have it'll fart around because you can't short it on the bid, and so it just gets supported, right? Hey JJ, what's up, baby? And then you'll spike up here, right? You get some short covering, and then what happens once that short covering is done, it fizzles out. It'll break under the VWAP and just start fizzling. We call that just a fizzler. And that happens a lot on stocks that have SSR on it. Watch for the fizzle. If it doesn't shred right at the open, you'll get the first 5 minutes, you may shred down. Then you'll catch a little short squeeze. Then watch for the fizzle on that bad boy. The rest of these are all junk. You can take all this crap off the list here. We'll have focus. So ZM, Crowd, JNUB. These are the faves. And then ACAD pays for gappers look okay. Let me see on FCell. It seems like everybody wants to know about FCell. Yeah, if you want. Holds over 50. I think, you may have something. The volume was perking up the last couple days. Could work. Dollar stocks are hard enough to trade, but the 50-cent ones, the range on them is so small. If you're trading, say, 5,000-6,000 shares or whatever it might be, it's only, if it just moves around a few pennies here or there, you can really get yourself nicked up, losing 2 cents, 2 cents, 2 cents. And then it's that kind of, it's one thing to get nicked up in a bigger range, but when you get nicked up in a small range, it's you just spend all day. It's your grandmother's plucking your ball hairs, and it's grandma, stop. It's weird, right? That's what can happen when you get stuck in something like an FCell. We don't even need to be involved in such heresy, do we? We're good people, solid people, God-fearing people. We don't even need to mess with that. So it looks okay. Just be careful with what you go. So be focused today. If you need a couple shorts, lift looks pretty good on the short side. If you see this thing get jammed up into 45 and it rolls over, good. If this thing takes out first shred, 44.14. Hey, Dane, how you doing, brother? Pleasure to have you. This one looks good. Uber looks short too. And if you really got balls and you don't mind counter trending, you know, this LCI has filled this gap now. It could probably roll over any day. I'll probably stay away, but I don't like counter trend shorting. You know, for me, the easiest shorts are the ones that have like bad earnings, they gap down, or they're already shredding down. Counter trend trading is very, very tricky. It's like hooking up with your hot second cousin. You know, you do it, well, you don't want to tell anybody that you did it. You know what I mean? So have fun, guys. Let's make it happen. You know, last week was pretty hot in the chat room. Let's go and wrap it up and do it again. I'll be in the boom boom room. We got Mark trade recap at noon, and then I got some things to do the rest of the day. So let's try to make short order of this and shred the way we know how to shred. Boom, ba-dum, da-dum, da-dum, da-dum.